na amanfo ne akeyake this asema ma asem ba ebedi na wotweda pepepe ye pam ho atade ne asusu ne de ahyew ebi susu se ye ye honhomboni bi a etifiri soro ebesi akora ne so na yama no bofo Abdul Faiza ewa homa no so ye ne Abdul Faiza ntwetwe nkomo Faiza na roma ate enkem ha.
Good afternoon my brother.
Faiza boy nkomo e den na seaport ya rahu semi atimi atu Emmanuel yi.
Well, I think you have rightly stated the occurrence yesterday. A young man is a coconut seller. He was 17 and sells a coconut just opposite the regional office of the Electricity Company of Ghana, here in Ho. And so yesterday, during a very brief and short shower, there was a lightning strike and he could not survive it. 2 other persons who were involved were sent to the hospital, and this morning we are being told they have been discharged. In the case of Emmanuel, who is presumably dead, the body has since been left here since yesterday. Nobody is able to get closer to the body because of the fear that this particular happening, once it happens in the Volta region, people are able to attribute it to some traditional beliefs. And the case is that people believe here that there is a tender god, which is commonly known as Yesu, and that anytime an incident of this nature happens and it is linked to it, the thinking also is that the victim might have committed a crime or a relative might have done so, and they have been cursed, and so the god actually strikes. So in the case of Emmanuel, the body is still lying down here. Nobody is able to get closer, and it is only when a rite is performed that the body is taken. As I speak to you, the families are seated here in a meeting. They informed us earlier this morning that they have sent a delegation to Nogopo yesterday, Nogopo in the Ketu South municipality, the Almaty Nogopo, to go and consult the gods as to the next steps to be taken. And so the delegation is back. They are seated in a meeting. We'll be waiting to hear from them right after the meeting. But of course, the police service, on the other hand, have not been able to come here since yesterday because they also fear that the death have been linked to the tradition we are talking about. The environmental health officers were here this morning. They told us they will not touch the body until they have express permission from the families and the necessary rites be performed. And so basically, the body of Emmanuel Tolly, the 17-year-old boy who was struck yesterday, is still lying down here untouched.
First, Samituasia, spiritual suspicion, body net so that one will be anchor body no one. Sabi Omususu say a whom.
That's exactly what I'm saying. And the implication is that when it happens so, and indeed it is a spiritual issue, once you go closer to the body, you are also bringing onto yourself some other consequences. People fall sick through that. People become paralyzed. These are diseases that are very predominant and prevalent in the South. And so those in Ho, for instance, in Upper Volta, when it happens like this, they usually run down to the South to undertake the consultations and the military rites in cases of this nature. And so that's exactly what the family is doing.
But first, where did you can be say etimiasiana now which be say or more GDA will be a friend tender god muse will be Dibonia, tender god no strike or Nipanosukum Nipano. Where did you can?
Well, the last time I heard of an incident of this nature was somewhere around 2008-9 thereabouts. That particular one happened in the Ketu North municipality. I got here this morning and I am learning from colleagues that in recent times, some of these happenings occurred in the region in other parts, not specific areas that I can speak to. But let me point this out, that even though I am not a traditionalist, I grew up in the South. And this is one of the beliefs that dates back, and it's still in existence. In fact, in some cases where you go to steal somebody's coconut, I remember in my days in secondary school, we were not allowed to touch people's coconut somewhere around Ketu South in particular. The belief is that people sometimes go to the gods to take some form of concoction or whatsoever for their family. And so once they have the backing of the gods to do their family, and you go to steal, you are possibly going to be struck by the god. it's something that people speak about famously and with so much pride. It's the reason why in the past, theft cases were not very prevalent in these areas, except that in recent times things are changing. People are stealing. You hear of theft cases, but in the past, this is one of the reasons why you hardly hear of theft cases in the South. You sleep with somebody's wife, you are likely going to be sacked by the tender God, and it is very, very scary. It puts people away from some of these social vices.
Feza, mena sena me mfansi amano bo for ton krafi from Antamu Vota region. Feza Abdul Idrusu amano bo na woti ye na afenu wa join ye na Facebook live. Se wo hwe na brand ye fenu Emmanuel so de na nkanyame ene ye wo ho. So obi to ne ba Emmanuel na chesi nyame ben akora ne pa. Na yesi sai wo smara god bi. Sa abosum nkitinkiti bi e friend tender god from Antamu capital ho pe. Na yesi wudi bone fa obi mpena obi yere. Wobi pieto se hona de also nsa dumfa nya adwuma ma pieto na bewia akowia se gurom umfa nuru ba bia na wiema etum na chese tender god no wo mu na kyerɛ wo mu na bu anintie no afa pieto na nkosen hwa ne na trem na ewiema etija pesi usu a echen akom ebo otofom obi antimi me wo disa mamre ne amane na na mahyehyɛ e wo Volta region from Antemo mutimi ye ansena betimi nipa betimi abanchen nipa betimi abanchen enti Emmanuel tender strike won sukum no enra na yese bepem samri enya de so obi atimi akɔ no ho abusu antimi nkɔ no ho enti wo hwɛ se nipa abodompem ehwɛ a na wo se nipa bi da ho na Emmanuel meka se wiem eti ye ma agrada etimi ekum no nipa antimi nkɔ no yese abusua akaso mbe amamre ne amane no matimi afamu no akosie no
na bafo na emremu nso
police ntimi nkɔ ho se ya mamre eno mu ogidie se nananom wo ho enti wo nsa koka na bi abrante no boni bi ena wodi yi a omo se sa tender god no wodi boni a ena strike wo
enti aha no amamre ye adwuma
ho ne di amamre ye adwuma yankwa nim
wie adishimama meso tachie mi esikede watu masie me das wo ho na yebeka ya yemu nkompo kakra wo Gambia maimum na boni a wonum efro mamu enipa beye aduanan ena 44 Ghanaians abusuafo penimfo candidate to aso say me kwa kope bi ababedi aya mpempi no ekokohia me babebe den enenam na won kokopie mu na obi anka bi hye mu no Ghana fo a won dodo ye aduanan 944 eni adehye bi a won so free ebibre mu aman ahodo bi so ebra sa abre na Gambia won ma panya na wote so a won ene yaya jame abusuafo won ma enam kwatikwan so bi ekum sa adehye yaya edi won ma enkwa afi won ma ensem no eni o man Ghana ni abiman ni biase nyina esore kaseti ai kwan ya wo fa so edi Ghana adehye aduanan enan no efa so enam so ema woni a woja akire aye musua agodo aka no eni da ne da de wo ye ne se wo bo aban tiri so esanse wonum so em wodidi ye pa se aban no entimi emmo ne hommode etira so a enke betimi ademabo ama atentere ne etimi akwa ma won ma de hye okoko etoye yaya eyemu na enna ye sorry ya amani asabre ababeto ja NSM wo ebibre atoye memna fes Ghana ye ka honom emusuaku a won meja akire no won matense ne ensem denne Gambia aban edekata bi ababeto ja edi eda so ne white paper abusuya wonomo eba bedoma boam na ya obia abusuani bia akomu ankrankra won ho eka yesabi momfa nche wono sira wonfa bibia enche na wonhwe kwane obetimi afaso adensiesie aba protocol matri din tenten was say Truth, Reconciliation and Reparation Committee asabre Gambia aban wode atoja na wohwe mu ade wo ba be ye biem so enim se woyi ensiesie ne chopa wono ma epa de hia wono mo eho abusuafo ekoka adwamu a se wode mpata esika potokasem ye ka ne compensation so ababonten na Ghana fo abusuafo aduanan enan a won ho kaka adwanmu no dodo no aso aka won ho abom asabre wate coalition be Ghana de ye ne atiku adi da wono so Justice to Jamel coalition wono de waka nyina ne se ekame se Ghana ban atiada enti wodi ya kakra wono mu na emom se compensation sika mpata na abano de wo hwe ni mu se ansa kura ban ebete sika ne se sumasi obenten odehye akuto wa Gambia enti gisa mpata sika no wono mu hwe ni mu se busuani bi ebeka saa committee no ehum
asem no aba na nado ball na abeto nanim wadibim yenya dibim ebim de na aka ono nso enti no oma president na so enti se sika ne de esua enti ede onko na chi no samna pa ya ni che ni mu ni die se no omo de afa kwan bi so a anya yede e wo se 2010 e wo sika na hu bi enti se sika we na eba no mi de mi gina so ni se nanado eti ne committee a yen so a yade hye so ede aka mu yen so beti committee na odi emperifo no aboa yen ama sa abre enukra na da edi no so no omo so ti committee no ya sa committee ni mi ensa hia yen nyina etena ase a ye be hu kwan ye be fa so.
Abusuana Edward no Reverend Emmanuel Kelson ono ni nua ni mpo ne bra enso ekotoy de o kan yenim.
Since we are Ghanaians, but since they've not shown any interest in what has happened, since they've not spoken to even the coalition, not even any of the members, or tried to call upon us, feel our pains and see what they can do to help us as Ghanaians, I don't trust them. Exactly, very much. Let me say, highly disappointed, because if now the sitting president was then the foreign affairs minister, and I don't know whether they tried to cover things, but now it's clear. Even the government, the current government, His Excellency Adam Barrow, they have accepted. The junglers, some of them came out to say what happened, which is true. These are statements, research, findings. I think the government of Ghana should have come out long time ago, should have come out to show its party support for us. This shows they are just there for their interests, not the interests of the citizens.
Abusuana Reverend Emmanuel Kelson nene ena yete ye da so was asem kro na so na coordinator e de masabre eku a wono ate a wo hwesa tentere na ebetimi akwama adisha wono agya kire no Awano aye Justice to Jamel Coalition Director was signed in the Juma African Center for International Law and Accountability. Abusuya ni ding adi wonuyan for William Nyako wano so ekyere mu se wei abeduma boapa ama bibrem sakrayet mi aba na se ba na bibrem aman panimfo di drum bi se bimpredwasa anase wonom etietie ankrakra fa hudie so a wonom beko machi asan ababie.
But we are encouraged by the government's response that is accepted to prosecute Yahya Jammeh. And this, we think, is going to be a good signal to other African heads of state, particularly those in the region that we travel to most frequently, the West Africa sub-region, that these unlawful killings and forced disappearances and torture should not go unpunished. There would be no impunity for such actions. We look forward to other actions that will go forward from this.
Coordinator Edema Justice to Jamel Coalition. Awano ene nana yeti. Wano ene ununyam for William Nyako.